Hi. Alright. Budget day in New Zealand. Howdy everybody. Let's see what kind of what the lolly scramble looks like this year. I am confident it's going to be a little bit of a lolly scramble. I've been assured all week by, and leading up to it, by the budget minister that it's not going to be one, but who the hell knows? So, yeah. Parliament should be starting anytime soon. Surely you have to go higher than 720, whatever. Here's the House of Representatives, House of Commons in New Zealand Parliament. Labour is on the side of the screen where my face is, Nationals on the other side, and all your minority parties are scattered around the rest of it. Jerry Brownlee.
E te atua kaharawa, ka tuku whakamoimiti atu mātou, mōna karakia ko waihotia mai ki runga i a mātou. Ka waiho i mātou pānga whaiora katoa ki te taha, ka mihi mātou ki te kingi me te inui atu, mō te arihitanga i roto i o mātou whakaharoharohanga. Kia mohio ai, kia whakaiti ai tā mātou whakahaere i ngā take o te wharenei. Mō te oranga, te maungarongo me te aroha o Aotearoa. Amen.
Karakia, or the prayer.
A petition has been delivered for presentation.
Petition of Shane Clark Witihira requesting the House urge the Government to decline fast-track application 229 to build a 200 to 250 berth marina at Waipiro Bay.
That petition stands referred to the Petitions Committee. No papers have been delivered. A select committee report has been delivered for presentation.
Report of the Education and Workforce Committee on the briefing on the 2023-24 performance, current operations and strategic intentions of Immigration New Zealand.
The bill is set down for consideration. The clerk has been informed of the introduction of 4 bills.
Appropriation 2024-25 Supplementary Estimates Bill, introduction. Military Decorations and Distinctive Badges Modernisation Amendment Bill, introduction. Financial Markets International Money Transfers Amendment Bill, introduction. Local Government, Port Companies Accountability Amendment Bill, introduction.
Those bills are set down for first reading. I come to the supplementary estimates. I call on the Honourable Nicola Willis.
Mr Speaker, I present the supplementary estimates of appropriations for the Government of New Zealand for the year ending 30 June 2025.
That paper is published under the authority of the House. The House now comes to the delivery of the budget. The Honourable Nicola Willis.
Mr Speaker, I present the 2025 budget speech, the Budget at a Glance 2025, the Fiscal Strategy Report 2025, the Child Poverty Report 2025, the Summary of Initiatives 2025, the Budget Economic and Fiscal Update 2025, and the estimates of appropriations for the Government of New Zealand for the year ending 30 June 2026.
Those papers are published under the authority of the House.
Right.
Thank you.
time for distribution of the clipboards to the party leaders. Yes, this charade happens every year. Oh, dude. Someone's not even in the house. Two guesses as to who those seats belong to, given the recent going on in Parliament.
2025-26 Estimates Bill, introduction.
The Appropriations 25-26 Estimate Bill is set down for first reading immediately. The Honourable Nicola Willis.
Here we go, intro.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Appropriation 2025-2026 Estimates Bill be now read a first time.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The party vote is called for. The clerk will conduct the party vote.
New Zealand National.
49 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party of Aotearoa New Zealand.
15 votes opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
11 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Te Pāti Māori.
The ayes are 68, the noes are 49. The motion is agreed.
Appropriation 2025-26 Estimates Bill, first reading.
The Appropriations 2025-26 Estimates Bill is set down for second reading immediately. The Honourable Nicola Willis.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Appropriation 2025-2026 Estimates Bill be now read a second time. Ahumairangi, tangi te keo, tu te ao, tu te pō, te whanganui atara, te karu waitai, piata maina. Kei oku nui, kei oku rahi, nōku, te honore, ki te whakamunu, i te tahua, mō te tau nei. Tēnā koutou katoa. Mr. Speaker, as I said in Te Reo Māori, it is an honour to announce this year's budget. This is a responsible budget to secure New Zealand's future.
We'll be the judge of that
It
one.
supports the economic recovery now underway. It also takes a longer-term view, with initiatives to boost future investment, savings and growth. It continues this government's investment in health, in education and law and order. And in a challenging global environment, it provides funding to boost New Zealand's defence capability. And it does all of this within an expenditure track that reduces government spending as a share of the economy, returns the government's books to balance and bends the debt curve down from going up to going down. The economic outlook presented alongside this budget is a bright one. After a tough few years, growth, jobs and wages are set to rise. The government is
Turn
not
you down a little bit so I
promising
can
that today's budget will
talk.
solve all New Zealanders' problems. But we do promise that the decisions we are taking now will set our country up for a better future. Mr. Speaker, the creation and delivery of an annual budget is at the heart of strong and stable government. And this budget is a team effort. I want to acknowledge and thank the Associate Ministers of Finance, David Seymour, Shane Jones and Chris Bishop, for their ideas and their advice. They were heavily involved in putting this budget together, as was the Prime Minister, whose leadership Council was invaluable. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Yeah, wise
Mr.
counsel.
Speaker, in recent years, New Zealanders have battled through an extended period of high inflation, high interest rates and low growth. And we know that times remain tough for many Kiwis. The good news today is that with strong economic and fiscal management, a recovery is underway. The recovery is being supported by lower interest rates and strong export performance. And over the next few years, the government's new investment boost policy, which I will come to shortly, will have a positive impact on growth. Recent tariff announcements have created uncertainty and volatility around the world. And for a small trading nation like New Zealand, the global situation is concerning. It doesn't threaten the recovery, but it does threaten the pace of the recovery. The Treasury has pegged its forecasts back and downside risks remain. Despite this, budget forecasts show economic growth picking up to healthy levels once again. Real GDP growth is expected to accelerate to 2.9% in the next fiscal year and 3% in the year after. Growth matters. It means more jobs, higher incomes and opportunities for families to get ahead. And over the forecast period, wages are expected to grow faster than inflation, and at the end of that period, there are expected to be 240,000 more people in jobs.
Okay. Foreshadowing much?
Mr. Speaker, the government's books have taken a hammering over the past 6 years or so. Spending has risen sharply, so has government debt. The budget deficit left by the previous government is structural. It is not simply due to the state of the economy. In other words, the last government was living beyond its means, loading up the credit card to pay for things New Zealand couldn't afford. And this did real damage to our economy, as a massive spike in the cost of living led to high interest rates and low growth. This government is taking responsibility for cleaning up the mess.
Yeah, they're trying
And under
to.
our fiscal management, government debt will stabilise, then start to come down. And our control of spending creates room for monetary policy to respond with lower interest rates. There is no doubt, Mr. Speaker, that fiscal consolidation is challenging. Some would do it with higher taxes. Well, that would burden New Zealand workers and businesses and scare away talent and investment. It would put our economic recovery at risk. This government is taking a different approach. We are getting the books in balance by controlling growth in government spending. That reduction of $1.1 billion goes straight to the bottom line. The government's headline operating balance indicator, OBGALX, is $1.1 billion better each year on average than it otherwise would have been. And in addition, the Treasury estimates that the tighter budget package will see interest rates being 30 basis points lower than they otherwise would have been by the end of the forecast period. Importantly, that $1.3 billion allowance is a net figure. On the one hand, it encompasses $5 billion a year of new investment and $1.7 billion a year for tax reductions through investment boost. On the other hand, it contains savings of $5.3 billion a year. Now, these savings are the result of ongoing efforts by multiple ministers, and I want to acknowledge you all today. We take seriously our roles as custodians of taxpayer money. A significant portion of those savings come from changes to the pay equity regime. The changes were made to ensure future settlements stick to correcting pay discrepancies that arise from sex-based discrimination and not for other reasons. Making those changes means the government can repurpose $2.7 billion a year on average towards budget priorities like health, like education and law and order. That $2.7 billion had been put aside in contingencies for what, under the previous regime, were expected to be very wide-ranging pay equity claims, increasingly divorced from the sex-based discrimination that pay equity is supposed to be about. A one-off $1.8 billion has also been repurposed from previous contingencies and put towards capital expenditure in this budget, supporting investments in new hospitals, in new schools and other infrastructure. And I can assure members that adequate funding remains in contingency to meet potential costs of future public sector pay equity settlements under our new regime. And the government also anticipates there will be pay rises in female-dominated public sector workforces achieved through normal collective bargaining. Mr. Speaker, the government has also been able to find net savings by increasing funding for Inland Revenue's compliance activities. Funding of $35 million a year is expected to result in $280 million of extra tax revenue. That's an 8-to-1 return on investment. This was an initiative proposed last budget by New Zealand First and expanded in Budget 2025. Further savings have been made by closing a number of tax contingencies and from reviewing the value of money, of grants and funds across government. This is not austerity. In fact, it is what you do to avoid austerity. Because getting the books in shape
Bold claim.
ensures New Zealand has financial security and choices into the future. And as I am about to set out, savings in this budget have allowed us to make much needed investments in health, in education, law and order, and rebuilding our defence force. Budget forecasts show that core Crown expenses are expected to remain steady, then decline as a percentage of GDP, reaching 30.9% by 28-29. The Obergale's deficit is expected to widen in the near term, then gradually improve after next year, returning to a surplus of $200 million by the end of the forecast period. At that point, members, the structural deficit the previous government left us will have been eliminated.
Okay, I'll clap
Net
when it's
core
time.
Crown debt is expected to peak at 46% of GDP, slightly lower than forecast at the half-year update, before then beginning to decline. As these forecasts show, Mr. Speaker, the government is taking a deliberate, medium-term approach to fiscal consolidation. I am aware there are alternative approaches. Some say we should keep borrowing forever, whack it on the credit card and hope for the best. Well, that would be the height of irresponsibility. It would put the financial security of New Zealand at risk. And we owe better to our kids. And to my own kids, sitting in the gallery today, I want to say that I know Mum's been busy lately, and I'm sorry I missed your show last night, Hatter. But your future, and the future of the next generation of New Zealanders, has been very much on my mind as we've put this budget together. This budget will be good for you and for all our kids. Mr. Speaker, New Zealand's productivity challenges are well understood. Study after study has identified that a low level of capital investment per worker compared to other countries. To raise productivity, to lift incomes and drive long-term economic growth, New Zealand needs our businesses, big and small, to invest in machinery and tools and equipment, technology, vehicles, industrial buildings and other capital assets. Investment Boost is a new tax incentive that will increase capital investment in New Zealand. An Investment Boost allows a business to immediately deduct 20% of the cost of a new asset from its taxable income on top of depreciation. This means a much lower tax bill in the year of purchase. And the remaining book value is depreciated at normal rates. Since a dollar now is more valuable than a future dollar, the cash flow from investments is more attractive and the after-tax returns are better. More investment opportunities will stack up financially, so more will be made. Over 20 years, members, Investment Boost is expected to lift New Zealand capital stock by 1.6%, our GDP by 1%, and wages by 1.5%. The advice we have received is that the benefits will be widespread among New Zealanders, with workers set to benefit the most in the form of more employment and bigger wage increases. These are, of course, orders of magnitude, but officials estimate that roughly half the impacts happen in the first 5 years. Investment Boost starts today, and it applies to new assets purchased in New Zealand as well as assets imported from overseas. It includes commercial buildings, but it excludes land, residential buildings and assets already in use in New Zealand. There's no cap on the value of new investments and all businesses, regardless of size, are eligible. It is estimated to cost an average of $1.7 billion per year in reduced revenue across the forecast period. So to manufacturers, farmers, tradies, other Kiwi businesses, my message to you is this: our government is helping you invest for your future and our country's future. Mr. Speaker, continuing the growth theme, Budget 2025 funds a number of initiatives that contribute to the government's Going for Growth agenda. As I announced earlier this week, the government has set aside $65 million to encourage foreign investment in New Zealand infrastructure by increasing the amount of tax-deductible debt foreign investors can use to fund it. The budget also supports the science and innovation reforms announced earlier this year. These include the move to transform Crown Research Institutes into 3 new public research organisations, establishing a dedicated gene technology regulator and creating a new agency, Invest New Zealand, as the government's one-stop shop for foreign direct investment. Other economic growth initiatives in this budget include funding for screen production rebates and additional funding for the Elevate New Zealand Venture Fund to invest in the technology startup sector. Funding has also been set aside in contingency for potential Crown co-investment in new gas fields to ensure future supply. Mr. Speaker, while KiwiSaver has helped a lot of New Zealanders to save, many people's balances are modest. There would be few people, I think, who would reach 65, look at their KiwiSaver balance and think, I wish I'd saved less. The same goes for those looking to buy their first home. Budget 2025 makes changes to encourage Kiwis to save more, while also making the scheme more fiscally sustainable. From 1 April 2026, the default rate of employee and employer contributions, which is currently 3%, will go to 3.5%, and from 1 April 2028, it will go to 4%. Phasing this in over a 3-year period helps workers and employers plan ahead. The government recognises that, over time, employer contributions may effectively form part of the wage negotiation process. Employees will be able to opt down to the current 3% rate and still be matched by their employer at that lower rate. Their contributions will be reset to the default rate after 12 months, but they can opt down again if they wish. These changes, moving to a default contribution rate of 4% but retaining a 3% option, were recommended last year by the Retirement Commissioner. From 1 April 2026, the government will extend employer matching to 16 and 17-year-olds. And from 1 July 2025, it will make them eligible for the government contribution. This will encourage more young people to adopt a savings habit and help them build a deposit for their first home. Members may recall that the original KiwiSaver design included layers of expensive government subsidies that proved unaffordable. Most have since been wound back, and the scheme has continued to flourish, apart from the government contribution, which is expected to cost an average of $1.2 billion a year over the forecast period. I'm advised that the government contribution is unlikely to be increasing the amount New Zealanders save. To ensure that KiwiSaver's costs to the taxpayer remain sustainable, this annual government contribution will be halved to 25 cents for each dollar a member contributes each year, up to a maximum government contribution of just over $260 a year. Members with an income of more than $180,000 will no longer receive any government contribution. These changes to the government contribution will apply from 1 July 2025. They do not affect the current year's government contribution, which will be paid out in July and August this year. Putting all these changes together, the KiwiSaver balances of employees contributing at the new default rate will grow faster than they do now, providing a larger balance at age 65 or when people come to buy their first home, building the financial security of New Zealanders. Savings from changes to the government contribution, which total $2.5 billion over the forecast period, are being used to fund other budget priorities, including health, education and law and order. Mr. Speaker, a number of Budget 2025 initiatives deliver targeted cost of living support. These include fiscally neutral changes to working for families to better target it at low and middle income families who need the support most. From 1 April next year, the government will raise the family income threshold for working for families to $44,900 a year and increase the abatement rate slightly to 27.5%. As a result, families with incomes just above the new threshold will get an extra $23 per fortnight from working for families, with this additional support reducing gradually as family income rises. In all, an estimated 142,000 families with children will receive $14 more per fortnight on average, and the vast majority of these families will have incomes below $100,000 a year. This will incentivise working families and give them support when they need it most. The cost of this extra support is met from better targeting the first year of the Best Start tax credit. From 1 April next year, the first year of Best Start will no longer be universal, but will be income tested the same way the second and third years already are, with payments ending completely when a family earns just over $97,000 a year. As a consequence, there will be families that receive less financial support than they otherwise would have, but the vast majority of those families will have incomes over $100,000 a year. The change to Best Start only applies for births on or after 1 April 2026, so no family will see an actual reduction in their payments. And as a mother of four, I can point out that we are giving prospective parents more than 9 months advance notice of this change. Mr. Speaker, another cost of living initiative relates to prescriptions. Getting a prescription for only 3 months at a time can be frustrating, particularly for people on stable long-term medications like asthma inhalers, insulin for diabetes and blood pressure tablets. Getting a repeat prescription costs money and adds paperwork for doctors. Now, from the first quarter of 2026, New Zealanders will be able to get 12 months prescriptions for their medicines. That will save Kiwi medical costs and it will give health professionals more time to deal with other patients.
Yes,
The budget
thankfully.
also helps up to 66,000 additional Super Gold card holders pay their rates. From 1 July this year, the rates rebate scheme will become more generous for Super Gold card holders and their households by increasing the income abatement threshold to $45,000 a year and increasing the maximum rebate to $805. These changes originated from the National and New Zealand First Coalition Agreement and will come as welcome relief to many ratepayers. Mr. Speaker, the biggest part of this budget is investment in the frontline services Kiwis rely on. And I want to take members through some key areas of new funding. First, let me clarify that when I talk about additional funding, I'm referring, unless stated otherwise, to operating funding over the next 4 years plus capital funding. I will start with health. Budget 2025 makes a capital investment of more than $1 billion in hospitals and health facilities. Funding has been allocated for a major redevelopment of Nelson Hospital, including a new 128-bed inpatient building. And in what is great news for the people of Nelson, the new inpatient building is expected to be built by 2029, 2 years earlier than originally planned.
Yes. Cool. Yeah.
Funding has also been allocated for a new emergency department at Wellington Regional Hospital. In addition, Wellington Hospital will get new specialist treatment spaces, an expansion of the intensive care unit, and a refurbishment of the old children's hospital. The budget also funds health infrastructure projects at Auckland City Hospital, Green Lane Clinical Centre, and Palmerston North Hospital. And in terms of operating funding, the budget confirms a funding increase of $5.5 billion for hospital and specialist services, primary care, community health, and public health. This will support Health New Zealand to make progress on the government's targets for more timely care, including shorter waiting times for hip replacements, cataract surgery, and other elective procedures. Budget 2025 confirms funding of more than $1 billion to buy and deliver additional cancer treatments and other medicines that Pharmac has announced over the past 12 months. And the budget provides new funding of $447 million to support increased access to primary care, including urgent care and after-hours services across New Zealand. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to something close to my heart. Giving children a chance to reach their potential through the power of a good education is one of the greatest gifts that a government can bestow. And to my mind, improving the results we get from our education system is the single most important thing we can do to improve the future productivity of New Zealand. New funding in Budget 2025 of $646 million operating and $101 million capital is the largest boost to learning support in our generation.
I'll give you that one, it is. I'll break this down later.
Improvements to our learning support system are overdue. It is a system that has become characterised by inequity, underfunding, long wait lists and frustrations from schools and parents.
Too right.
Children who need additional support have been missing cost to them and to their families, and it is of great cost to our country. Because children with additional needs have enormous potential, and with this support, more of them will have the chance to realise it. It will also benefit their classmates, whose teachers will now be better supported to meet diverse learning needs. The extra budget funding will provide more teacher aid hours, more specialist support, more learning support coordinators, an expansion of early intervention services, and new learning support classrooms. Mr. Speaker, this investment will change lives. There is also new funding in the budget for schools' operational grants, early childhood education and tertiary education subsidies. And there is funding to increase the independent school subsidy to address price and volume pressures over time, delivering on the ACT and National Coalition commitment to review the funding formula. Extra maths help will be available for students who need it, with $100 million of new funding for early intervention and support. And there is a $140 million package of services to lift school attendance, and this delivers on another ACT and National Coalition commitment. Finally, more than $700 million has been set aside to deliver new schools, purchase sites, expand some schools, and build new classrooms. The Honourable Erica Stanford, we did it. It's a great budget. Mr. Speaker, new funding in Budget 2025 continues the government's drive to restore law and order. The budget invests $480 million more to support police on the front line to crack down on crime and keep our communities safe. We will not be defunding the police. We are also keeping communities safe through stronger sentencing laws that mean less violent crime, fewer victims, and more offenders in prison. The budget invests $472 million to ensure corrections can manage this increase in the prison population, including 580 new frontline staff. This reflects an ACT and National Coalition commitment to increase funding to ensure sufficient prison capacity. The government is also redeveloping Christchurch Men's Prison, with the project set to be designed, built, financed and maintained for 25 years under a public-private partnership. And I know the member for Selwyn is pleased. Court case backlogs will be reduced through $246 million of new funding, which will improve timeliness and access to justice. Customs is also receiving additional funding to strengthen our border, prevent drug smuggling and fight organised crime. Finally, I want to mention Māori and Pacifica Wardens and the Māori Women's Welfare League. They are the friendly faces when things get tough, and they are receiving funding in this budget thanks to New Zealand First. Mr. Speaker, for too long, New Zealand's Defence Force has been allowed to gradually deteriorate through loss of personnel and a failure to upgrade equipment. Budget 2025 marks a change in that course. A major uplift in defence spending will ensure New Zealand pulls its weight in an increasingly volatile world. And it does this by investing in the men and women of our military and giving them the modern tools they need to do their jobs. And this uplift cannot be funded in one budget alone, but we have made a meaningful start by funding priority projects, including new maritime helicopters. The budget also invests $660 million to improve core Defence Force capabilities across air, sea, land and cyberspace. In terms of foreign affairs, the budget addresses a very steep fiscal cliff in overseas development assistance, specifically for climate finance, that was
Oops. Don't ask me what's going on here. It's buffer running out or something, but
helpfully left by the previous government. The budget addresses this at least in part through ongoing baseline funding of $100 million a year focused on the Pacific. Members will perhaps not be surprised to learn that the Minister of Foreign Affairs has made a very strong case for more funding, and this will be looked at in future. The budget also includes new funding of $84 million over 4 years to enhance New Zealand's relationships with Asian countries, address trade barriers and support the government's goal to double exports. Mr Speaker, Budget 2025 sets aside $230 million for a new social investment fund, of which $190 million is to purchase better outcomes for New Zealanders in need. Social investment is about the government investing earlier, guided by data and evidence, and with much more transparent measurement of the impact that interventions are having in people's lives. Mr Speaker, it is not enough to simply service misery. We have to actually make people's lives better. And over the next year, the fund will invest in at least 20 initiatives adopting a very different contracting approach than is traditionally used by government agencies, and an approach we are ambitious to grow much, much further. And I know that the Minister for Social Investment is excited by the prospects for this approach to change vulnerable people's lives for the better. Mr Speaker, as announced a fortnight ago, the budget allocates $774 million to fund initiatives in response to the Royal Commission of Inquiry into Abuse in Care. The government has committed this funding across a number of different votes to improve redress for survivors and to strengthen the care system to prevent, identify and respond to abuse in the future. Mr Speaker, Budget 2025 allocates $6.8 billion of capital expenditure. This is partially offset by savings, leaving a net capital allowance in the budget of $4 billion, slightly higher than the $3.625 billion capital allowance signalled in the budget policy statement. I've already mentioned most areas of new capital expenditure in the budget: hospitals, schools, the Defence Force, prisons and the Elevate Fund. Budget 2025 also provides new funding to improve New Zealand's rail network. Train commuters and businesses moving goods around the country will see more reliable rail services thanks to the government's investment of $605 million for rail upgrades and renewals. And in addition, the budget provides funding to deliver additional social homes and affordable rentals, including for whānau Māori. These Budget 2025 capital initiatives add to existing investments already underway. Government infrastructure investment over the forecast period now totals around $61.8 billion. And about a third of this investment in infrastructure will be spent on the transport sector, and another third is going to education and health. In addition, $3.5 billion has been set aside in each of the next 3 budgets for new capital investments. Mr Speaker, putting this budget together wasn't easy. It involved careful choices and restraint from all ministers. And that is as it should be, and as New Zealanders have the right to expect. Because Budget 2025 had to strike a careful balance. It invests in public services that New Zealanders need now, while driving the long-term reforms to lift investment and productivity in the longer term. It delivers new hospitals, new schools, and a transformational boost to learning support. It makes changes to encourage Kiwis to save more. It provides cost of living relief targeted at low and middle income families. It takes the first step in a major uplift in defence spending. It secures the economic recovery that Kiwis are depending on. And, as all New Zealanders should expect, it does does this while setting a course to a balanced budget and an end to rising debt. Our approach, Mr. Speaker, means that New Zealanders can look forward with confidence. Every Kiwi can know that this is a government that has their back. Mr. Speaker, I commend this budget to the House.
So do I. So do I. And yeah, I want to go through it a little bit more. There's a couple points there that I'm really excited about, and a few points that I've taken because I'm not sure. I think it's a good move, might not be, and there's some that I'm like, what the hell? But anyhow, okay, number one, interest rates are looking to be 30 bonus points lower than comparable stuff. That's most of the time the interest rate fluctuates, but if they're able to lock in and actually get it down 30 bonus points, that would be fantastic. Make things a little bit cheaper for everyone. IRD has received compliance boosting yet again. I think it happened in the last couple of budgets. They always get something out of it. 2 points with investment boosts. Wages are lifting by 1.5%, so looks like we're going to be sitting. What are we now? We are 20. I think we're 24.75. Oh, I keep forgetting what the minimum wage is in New Zealand. Give me 30 seconds. $23.50. So if I've got this correct, we're gonna see that jump up to closer to $25 an hour. And all businesses, regardless of their size, will be eligible for the investment boosts. That's huge news, especially for those small businesses looking to invest and get ahead. Number one point that I am seriously excited about: screen production rebate has been given funding. I missed the numbers, but if anything, this is gonna bring more activity to the film world, more activity to the video world in New Zealand. Peter Jackson doing a brilliant job with Weta Studios and everything. But yeah, we've got a great country and we do need some more filmmakers around. KiwiSaver has been thrown a curveball. I'll put it that way. The default employer contribution to KiwiSaver is going to rise to 4% over 2 two moves. It's going to go up to 3.5% and then up to 4%. There is still going to be an option for 3% to be retained. So basically, if you seriously can't afford the 4%, you can go through the official way of, or the whatever the hopes are to get 3%. And from the 1st of April 26, which is next year, children or people 16 years and over will be eligible for KiwiSaver, and I believe it is shortly after that, or a few short months after that, that they become eligible for the government contribution. The worst part about KiwiSaver is the government is effectively halving its contribution. So the government contribution, if I had put the money in, would have been about $500, $530. So if I'm halving that, 275? Yeah, that's a bit, yeah. And if you're earning over 125,000 or 120, there was somewhere around there a year, they won't contribute to your KiwiSaver. Yeah, that's the second point. From 1st of April, government's raising the working for families tax credit threshold, meaning you can be in the thing for longer or until you earn a higher figure. I don't really know how that works, but I know a lot of families who are on working for families, and that is going to absolutely benefit them. The Best Start tax credit is going to be means tested from day one, and it's going to stop after the family hits 120,000 a year, I think, or 126,000 a year, whatever. I'm not huge on the details there because I'm not on that scheme, but good to see they're trying to keep it where it should be. Prescriptions. Huge breakthrough in prescriptions. And good lord, I seriously want this to stay. From the first quarter next year, which will be January 1, 12-month prescriptions. I can't tell you how freaking good it feels just to, like, most of you know my partner, Evie, she's got health problems and she requires medication. Otherwise she wouldn't be able to work and she'd just have pain the whole time. That's the short of it. And this means that for probably a good portion of her medications, she's gonna get the repeats every month for 12 months, and then we'll have to go to the only then we'll have to go to the doctor to get it renewed for the next 12 months. Takes a lot of worry off the shoulders and that, so long as they allow certain medications that are somewhat problematic at the moment to be put into that one. Super Gold Card holders will have the rate rebate jump on 1st of July. And significantly from what I'm understanding. And then we get into fundings, public health funding a little bit more here. More than $1 billion put aside to invest in hospitals. Nelson's new hospital is going to be completed 2 years earlier than expected, apparently. We'll wait and see because they don't know if there's any last minute problems that will rise from that. The Wellington Hospital's got a funding raise and a massive increase of funding for primary care is also on the table. So yeah, education sector has got 700 million, over 700 million set aside for new schools and classrooms. Probably teacher pay. Lord knows if you want to get paid well nowadays, become a teacher. The police are not defunded. There are some people who would argue with me about whether it's a good thing to defund the police. Honestly, I know, ACAB, all cops are bastards, gang. The comments are down there, go crazy. Where would they get the funding to? Yeah, all cops are bastards, gang. You're the one who's got the crime committed against you. Who do you call? You don't call Ghostbusters. To hell and back, you call the cops. So, no, regardless of how bastardly they can be, or they're seen to be, they are of actual use at times. And yeah, I think government funding to police is absolutely fine. It is actually taxpayers' money. But yeah, moving on the law and order side of the budget, 472 million has been given to corrections, and 582 new frontline staff are on the books for corrections, which is going to make things a little bit easier on the current group who are doing quite the job. And 246 million has been put aside to reduce the court case backlogs. Lord knows what that's going to look like, and Lord knows how that's going to work. But yeah, the Social Investment Fund has received a $230 million bump and will invest in at least 20 initiatives. Rail Network, or Kiwi Rail, $605 million for upgrades and renewals. Lord knows, trains are bloody expensive, mate. And they break a lot. So I can see that not going as far as what everyone wants it to, but yeah. And over the next 3 budgets, there's been 3.5 billion per budget set aside for further use. So that wraps up the New Zealand budget. As boring as it has been, hope you guys have enjoyed. I'll probably catch you on the next video, and I'll probably see you budget fiends next year. Bye.